going to let people just get on. Wait a little bit. I'm gonna wait about maybe 5 to 10 minutes and let people log on and get on board. And once I see a good sized amount of people, we'll start about 5 to 10 minutes after 11. Right now would be a good time to make sure that you have all the materials that you're going to need, which would include your sewing machine, your elastic, your Micron filter, and scissors, and your fabric, of course. So as you can see, I have all my materials set up to follow the Olsen Medical Design pattern. You're going to have your front piece, total of 6 pieces all together, your lining, cheek and mouth pieces, a couple of cuts of elastic, and your Micron filter, scissors, and your lovely pin cushion. Make sure your length and your width of your sewing machine is 2.5 and 3.5. And we'll be getting started in a few minutes. Got a couple more minutes and then we'll go ahead and get started. This right here shows you who's viewing.
Okay.
And then this button right here, you can turn the camera. I'm going to start off and kind of give an introduction, and then we'll get to sewing. Alright, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started. Okay. Alright, hello everyone. My name's Amilee Turner, and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Kansas. Today I'm just going to be doing a tutorial on how to sew the Olsen Medical Mask, which is was created and developed by the Unity Medical Health Hospital, named after a very famous nurse in the 1930s. The whole purpose of the mask was created in a generative prototypical type of space where scientists and doctors were able to try to generate some type of a mask that can help protect against the micron particles that are consistent in with the viruses and bacteria. And so I find this mask the most effective in helping to underneath the N95, which we all know would be the ideal mask, but due to the shortage, we have to kind of do what we can. And the Olsen Medical Mask at least allows for the insertion of micron particle filters, which is what helps increases its effectiveness to at least up to 87%. This was found in a study conducted by Cambridge University in 2013. So without further ado, if you have all your materials, I would like to first start off and make sure everyone has everything they need, and then we're going to just go through kind of the 3 to 4 stage process of sewing the mask. So go ahead and you want to face me first, or just face the material. So again, the Olsen Medical Mask consists of 6 pieces. You have your front piece, okay. Then you have your lining, which consists of the mouth pieces and the cheek pieces. Okay, you should have a total of 6 pieces of material that are already cut out and ready to sew. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that our sewing machine is set up correctly. It should be threaded in both the top and the bottom, and I'm making this tutorial under the assumption that those who are watching have some type of a basic beginner sewing experience. And so the first piece we're going to start off with is the front portion of our mask, and you can easily pin the 2 front pieces together along this longer edge right here. The seam allowance, the width of which we'll be stitching today, is going to be 1/4 of an inch, which is the length of your right up in against your presser foot right here. Sometimes laying down a piece of tape so you know where you're going to align your fabric material helps to understand the seam allowance in which you're going to be stitching. For this portion right here, you're going to want to lower down your presser foot, make sure it's aligned at 1/4 an inch. And we're going to just simply stitch all the way down, and we're going to make sure that we front stitch and we back stitch at the beginning and the end. the back stitch. And then I have my speed set for very slow to make sure that everyone can see what I'm doing here. But if you're more of an advanced sewer, then by all means you can speed up your sewing machine, but you're literally just stitching at a 1/4 inch all the way down. You can use your hands on your material, kind of guide. And then remember, right when you get to the end of your material, get to the presser foot, we want to go ahead and back stitch. And the back stitch just simply reinforces the stitch. Okay. And you can release. Go ahead and pull out and cut your thread. Go ahead and take out your pins. And when you open it, you'll have the lovely front portion of your mask, okay? And we're going to set that to the side. The next part is you're going to pick up your mouthpieces of your lining, and you're going to really do just the same exact thing that you did with the front pieces of your mask. You're going to go ahead and pin them together. And we always want to make sure that when we cut out our patterns, we line them up, that we have the right sides together. Same exact thing, a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to put down your presser foot, and you're going to also front stitch and back stitch, okay? Again, for those who are just entering, the back stitch helps reinforce your stitch. Just keep going a 1/4 inch all the way down. Again, if you're more of an advanced sewer, you can speed up your machine and stitch it much faster, but I'm going slower because I want everyone to be able to see what I'm doing. I have my brother filming me, so I might have him read some of your comments if anyone has any questions right now.
Megan Williams is watching. No one's asked anything yet.
Again, at the end, you're going to back stitch. And release your needle. Go ahead and pull that mouthpiece of the lining out and cut your thread. You can remove your needles. You now have the front piece of your lining, the mouth part. Now you're going to grab your 2 cheek pieces of your lining. They're going to be separate. You do not stitch these 2 pieces together. What you will do is on the longer side of your cheek pieces for your lining, you're going to be stitching a 1/4 inch down, and what this does is going to overlap with the front piece of the lining, the mouthpiece of the lining. So again, you're just going to line it up. Same thing, 1/4 inch stitch all the way down. Make sure that you back stitch at the beginning and the end to reinforce the stitch. Okay. Are there any questions, CJ?
Not as of yet.
You can read those comments right here if there are any. I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page.
Amilee Taylor, Center for Women and Gender Equality.
Okay.
What type of fabric are you using for the lining? I apologize if you answered this earlier. Sarah?
Yeah, so for the lining, all material I recommend being 100% cotton or at least of a cotton blend. Polyester being the highest recommended for the materials. This is just because if you think of, if we go back and kind of think about how even the N95 they're made, one of the 4 layers within the N95 is of a polyester material. And so I just, it is just recommended that the material and type of fabric you use is a cotton blend or 100% cotton. However, the study that was conducted by Cambridge has provided a list of materials that have been deemed to be effective in kind of preventing the transmission of micron particles, and that's what matters. Same thing with the second piece of your sheath lining. All we're doing right here is we're just stitching a 1/4 inch in on this cheek part right here, okay? And we're doing it on both pieces of the cheek.
Oh, Donna Ray, can this be hand sewn as well?
There are, I did read that it is possible. It just might take longer time. I know that there are variation in the types of patterns that are used, and some patterns allow you just to use 2 different types of material. They're much easier to sew, but they do not allow for the insertion of the micron filters, and I find that that's what's most important in stitching the Olsen Medical mask, is that it allows for the filter to be inserted. So if you don't have to hand sew, I would recommend using the sewing machine, but it is possible if you're just doing it for yourself or your family members. So you have 2 cheek pieces that have the 1/4 inch stitch of the longer size, okay?
Oh, my bad.
All right, cameraman. Now, you're gonna come back to your front lining piece, and on both sides right here, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to stitch a 1/4 inch and a 1/4 inch all the way down, and remember to backstitch at each end, beginning and end. And what this is going to allow for is the overlap of the lining, which will eventually allow for you to insert your micron filters. Go ahead and zoom in so they can see. Okay, remember to begin and backstitch. Speed it up a little bit. Release your needle. Go ahead and pull your material and cut your thread. Okay. We're going to do the other side the exact same way, okay? I might slow it down a little bit.
No question.
Backstitch. Release your needle. And pull out. Okay. So now you have your front lining with the 1/4 inch sewn on both sides. Same thing with your cheeks. And now this is kind of where we start pinning and things get a little bit trickier. So we want to make sure that we kind of zoom in and we pay attention. So you have your lining, all your materials of your lining at this point. Okay. Remember that this front lining is called the mouth part of the lining, and these two smaller pieces of the lining is called the cheek part. You're going to mash up the 1/4 inch on your lining cheek part with the 1/4 inch sewn on your front part. You're just going to mash up the stitches, okay? And you're going to pin the cheek part above the front part. There's going to be an overlap, okay? And you're going to do it on both sides, okay? And what this does for your lining is it allows for the micron filters to be inserted, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be at a 1/4 inch. We're just going to stitch literally an inch. We're going to secure the overlaps in place on each edge, okay? If you want to zoom in so they can see. Okay. And then you're just, again, you're gonna, at a 1/4 inch, you're just gonna stitch an inch and then back stitch. Okay. And you can back stitch. Okay. Release your needle. Pull out your material. Cut. So you're just securing the overlap between the cheek lining and the front lining, okay? Hope everyone can see that.
Okay.
You're going to do the same type of stitch at all the other remaining points. Again, I follow the Olsen medical mask pattern, and it is a bit more requirements in the sewing processes, but it is also a much more effective type of mask for medical workers, the immunocompromised, and elderly. So again, just each of the 4 locations, you're just going to, at a 1/4 inch stitch. And then back stitch. And again, all this is doing is just securing the overlap of the cheek with the mouth parts of the lining so that you can insert the filters. And then release your needle. Oops, sorry about that. There we go. Pull out, cut your thread. And at this point, the front of your lining, you can remove your needle or your pin. Excuse me. I'm just gonna pause here for a second. Make sure that everyone has everything they need if there's any questions, because this is going to be the most challenging part of making the medical mask, is where you do the final attachment, and you want to go ahead and bring in, this is where you want to bring in your 2 7-inch pieces of elastic, okay? The elastic part is probably the more complicated, and that's why it's really, really important to know how to stitch it correctly. Cut off any excess thread here, okay? And the best way that I like to do this, can you see it okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that your right sides together, okay? This is your right side of your lining. you're going to, on top, just lay it on top of the front side of your mask, okay? And then I would suggest pinning it here, 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 and here, and there, and there. So each of the 4 corners you would want to pin, and then where you stitch the front piece of the mouth lining, you're going to want to pin. You want to leave these edges over here open because you're going to insert the elastic. Do you see any questions at all right now? Okay. Okay. Make sure that people can see. Okay. So go ahead and pin your front piece of your mask to the lining piece of your mask. Okay. And then what you can do, if there's any excess material, you can turn it around. And you can just kind of trim. If sometimes when we cut our material, you might have a little excess, and you want to just trim those little excess pieces off so that everything lines up the same. So all I'm doing is just cutting off a little excess material where maybe too much was cut. This will also allow for those, if you don't have a serger and you can't finish your edges, when you turn it inside out, you won't have too much extra material barricading, okay? So this is where it gets a little bit tricky, okay? But this is also the final part of stitching together the mask. And for those of you that have a sewing machine, this is also where we do the pivot stitch, and that's where as I'll show you. The needle stays down and you turn the material underneath the needle. If you have a sewing machine that allows you to push down the needle and keep it in place, that's really, really useful in this step. So I like to start at the top corner right here of the top of the mask. And again, remember, everything is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. The entire mask that you sew is at a 1/4 inch seam allowance, okay? Okay, I'll make sure I go slow in this part. Make sure that you have your 2 pieces of elastic, okay? They should be cut in 7 inches, 2 different 7-inch pieces. That's for the adult size of the mask. There's also a child size, which I just, depending on if it's a toddler or a child, you can cut down to between 5 to 6 inches. So, CJ, I want you to really, really zoom the camera up right here, okay? Just right about there. Yep. Okay, here we go for the final part of the mask. Okay, so you're just gonna front stitch and back stitch at the beginning of the end, okay? And then at this first little overlap stitch is where I like to stop and get ready to insert the elastic. Okay. So at this edge right here, you're going to take your first end of your elastic, and you want to be very careful not to get the elastic caught under the needle, the longer part of it. But your elastic needs to come in at about a 1/4 inch, okay? From the edge. You want your elastic to be a 1/4 inch from the top edge of your mask, touching the end of the side. And then you're just gonna close down, okay? And the whole purpose is just to secure a stitch when we pivot in a minute. That's gonna keep the elastic in place, okay? fine now. It should have. And I like to do what I like to do before I do the pivot is I like to secure that piece of elastic in there. So I'll do a back stitch. And then now that you see that my needle is down in the material, this is what's called the pivot stitch, okay? So you're going to release, bring up your presser foot, okay? You're just gonna slowly turn, okay? You're gonna turn your mash facing towards you. Your needle's still secure in place. Everything, the whole stitch has not been messed with. You're just gonna continue stitching. You're gonna lower your presser foot. Make sure that everything's aligned at 1/4 inch. Make sure your elastic is not caught right there. You're gonna take the other piece of your end of your elastic. Same thing, you're gonna do 1/4 inch at the bottom, okay? And you're gonna stitch all the way down. Make sure you hold your elastic in place so it doesn't come loose. Again, I'm just gonna reinforce, back stitch, make sure the elastic is secure. And then same thing, we're gonna do another pivot, okay? And then you're gonna turn, hit up your presser foot, okay? And here is where you really don't wanna make sure your elastic is caught here. You wanna kind of slip your finger in here. You can kind of pull the elastic out of the path of the needle. Okay, and we're just gonna continue to sew at 1/4 inch all the way till we get to the other side. And we're going to also do the same thing where we stop and insert the elastic on the other side. Kind of use your fingers to guide your mash. Okay. Then when you get to this stitch right here, the overlap, you're gonna stop just like we did on the other side, okay? And then you're gonna take your final second piece of elastic and do exactly what we did on the other side. You're gonna insert it at 1/4 inch down, okay? And bring the top lining material back over, okay? And we're just gonna do a whole nother pivot stitch when we get there. Back just to reinforce. Then remember, needle down, release, lift up presser foot. And then turn the mask to face you. And then you're going to take the bottom part of your elastic and do 1/4 inch. Start stitching down. And back stitch, and then your needle down, and then this is where we finish off the mash. Once you turn, pivot one last time, okay? Make sure that your elastic you can pull, make sure it's not in the path of the needle. And then just again, you're gonna 1/4 inch all the way to the end. So at this point, we've stitched all the way around the mash with the front lining and the front part of your mash. Remember, at the end, you're going to back stitch. release your needle. Go ahead and pull out. So I'm gonna let you guys see. Take out your pins. Okay. Now, if you have a serger, well, I like the serger, you can go ahead and clean up the edges, but this is what you want it to look like, okay? Right sides together, okay? Then you're going to turn your mask inside out, and you want to make sure that you push all the corners out, okay? What I'm doing is I'm turning my mask inside out, and feel free to cut off any excess thread or any excess material so that you can push everything out. Make sure you push it all out. Okay, you got your mask going on. And then you turn back and you see this is where you have your overlap to insert your Micron filters. So at this point, you can, I would recommend ironing your mask. Make it nice, flatten it up, okay? And then you're gonna take your Micron filter, and remember, you just really want your Micron filter to be able to take up the bulk of the front of the mask, okay? And as I mentioned in some of my previous posts, your Micron filters can be ordered online. The vacuum bags, the Eureka Micron filter vacuum bags have been said to be up to 87% effective. I've also heard of air duct filters, but you're just going to take your Micron filter and you're going to slip it in through the insertion. Okay, push it down in there. Okay, a good filter that takes up the whole proportion. Now, some people have said that they can order Micron filters that take up the entire mask. Just depends on what your resources are, but then, and I also recommend using double adhesive to help seal. This is especially important for those who really need the mask. But then you can slip it on. Well, that will be going on here. So if anyone has any questions about how to make these masks, please don't hesitate to reach out. They're really, really much more useful. I find the Olsen medical masks to be the much more useful pattern, much more effective in helping prevent the transmission of the COVID-19. We just don't know enough about this virus, and we know that there's a demand for these masks. So don't let anyone undermine your efforts. Don't let know that if you're doing a good thing, just pay it forward to the community. But this is just the basic sewing strategy and tutorial to make the Olsen medical mask. So thank you guys. Let me see the camera. Let me see. This was my first time going live, so I'm very grateful for those that were in tune, and I hope this does help you guys. I think I got most of the questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and get off here. But again, if you have anything you want to know, feel free to shoot me a message and ask me.